Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng and today we'll be talking about the 5 sleeper OP picks and builds that you should be abusing for some free LP. You definitely know the popular OP picks and builds since they're all over social media, including our very own YouTube channel. But in this video, we'll be looking at some of the lesser known builds and picks today. We'll be starting things off with the build variant for Twitch that gets rid of its only real weakness in solo queue. I play a lot of AP Twitch support myself, and by support, I mean I roam around the map constantly ganking like a second jungler, hoping my ADC doesn't die, nor flame me for picking support Twitch. But everybody already knows about AP Twitch. What does this have to do with sleeper builds, you may ask? Well, one of the things I like so much about AP Twitch is that once you get the crown, it sort of allows you to initiate fights. You're not going to live forever with it, but the 1.5 seconds it lasts after an enemy reaches you is usually plenty of time to get the max poison stacks on your targets, and then do a huge chunk of damage with your E. This lets your team clean up the enemies as they struggle to move out of the massive slow from your W. But when playing AD Twitch, you don't have that luxury. You do a lot more damage over the course of a fight than AP Twitch, but you're also very vulnerable to divers and assassins. Without any peel, all you do is try to kill them before they kill you. And that's where this new sleeper OP build comes into play. It makes you a lot beefier, while also being able to dish out a ton of damage in fights. The build also starts out by making your first completed item Blade of the Ruined King. Blade gives you a really strong one item power spike and has a great build path, so you never really hit those awkward power troughs while building towards it. Now let's take a look at the build in full. For your runes, bring Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Legend Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Conditioning, and Overgrowth, with the stat runes being Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. For your items, start with the Doran's Ring, then rush to Tiamat and sit on it for now. It gives great pushing power so you aren't constantly being shoved in. Next up, grab Berserker's Grief and then build Blade of the Ruined King. Once you have that done, you're strong enough to constantly go for all-ins. After that, go for Hurricane and then upgrade to Titanic Hydra and pick up Black Cleaver. To round out your build, you'll grab Frostfire Gauntlet. That's a standard setup, but it's not set in stone that you must build that way. If the enemy team is AP heavy, grab Wit's End. If there's a super high burst champion on the enemy team like Kha'Zix or Annie, you could go ahead and top off the build with Crown instead of Frostfire. Part of what makes sleeper OP picks so successful is the fact that nobody plays them. Objectively speaking, they may not be better than or even as good as the most popular picks, but when your opponents don't really know how to play against them, you get all that extra edge in the fight. But that alone isn't quite enough to win you all of your solo queue games. You also need to have the skills to get those early leads and the know-how to use those leads to win your games. And that's exactly what we try to teach you over at ProGuides.com. Our top tier coaches over on ProGuides.com can help you figure out exactly what you need to work on. They're available 24/7, so it's never really a bad time to come try one out. I promise there's at least one that specializes in exactly what you're looking for. These guys have spent years reaching the top of the ladder, so why wouldn't you want to steal all their solo queue tips and tricks? You can find the link to our website down in the description box below. Now let's get back on topic, shall we? Next build that we'll be looking at is one for Fizz. As far as items go, this build is completely standard. The changeup that we'll be looking at is aimed at the runes. Instead of running the standard Electrocute page, you'll be running Press the Attack. Electrocute is a great rune for when you just need to burst people down, but honestly, a lot of times the damage is a little bit overkill against squishies anyway. It's no exaggeration to say that I've seen Fizz one-shot squishy targets with just a Q and W a few times. Add on his E and his ultimate, and he could kill an ADC 2 times over. Electrocute does give you a good bursty trade in lane, making it ideal when you want to go in and out quickly, leaving your opponent with little room to trade back. But Press the Attack opens you up to better extended trading. It's also great when laning against melee and shorter range champions, and is especially useful when dealing with beefier boys like Vladimir. Fizz versus Galio is never a great time, but it even helps out in that matchup, giving you the potential to cheese him early on before he reaches that point where he just rolls you. Like I said before, out of lane, you'll still one-shot squishy targets, but now you'll do even better in duels against beefier bruisers, juggernauts, and tanks. Here's a full rune page that you'll be running. Take Press the Attack, Triumph, Alacrity or Tenacity, Coup de Grace or Cutdown, Sudden Impact, and Relentless Hunter, with the stat runes being Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor or Magic Resist. For your items, you'll pretty much go for the standard build. Start with a Corrupting Potion, grab an early Dark Seal, and then build into Luden's Tempest, Sorcerer's Shoes, and Lichbane. After that, you have a few choices to where you could take the build next. If you're already snowballing super hard and think you can maintain the stacks, go for Magi Soul Stealer. If not, Zhonya's is a good safety item, especially against point-and-click ultimates from champions like Camille or Vi. If the enemy team has really beefy boys and you need a lot of auto attacks to bring them down, you could even go for Nashor's Tooth. As with any AP carry, you'll want to top off your build with Void Staff and Rabadon Seth Cap for maximum damage. The next pick that we have for you is Soraka mid lane. Supports in a solo lane aren't exactly a new thing. In fact, they've been so dominant that Riot just got done hard nerfing having double support items on one team. But this isn't utilizing any weird off-meta strategy or build. You're just straight up playing Soraka in the mid lane with standard gameplay, farming and trading like any mage. So why Soraka mid? Soraka is one of the best scaling supports in the game, pumping out insane heals in late game team fights. By putting her in the mid lane, you're speeding up that scaling a lot, getting solo XP and the farm all to yourself. Despite saying that she's a scaling pick, she also has a surprisingly strong laning phase. Soraka's Q provides both good wave clear and poking power, with each hit on an enemy champion giving you some health regen as well. Since this is your only real way to trade and clear waves, you'll be maxing it first. Other than actually getting gold for yourself, not much is different. I mean, Soraka is just Soraka. In fights, you'll pack a bit more of a punch and pump out even more heals, but you aren't suddenly a burst mage or anything. Make sure that you're not positioning like a stereotypical enchanter player. To get the maximum value out of Soraka's heals, it's important that you're forward enough in fights to land your Qs. Now, let's look at the build that you'll be running. For your runes, run Airy, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, Gathering Storm, Font of Life or Bone Plating, and Revitalize. The stat runes being Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and either Armor or Magic Resist. For your items are the Doran's Ring, and then build into Lucidity Boots, Moonstone Renewer, and Redemption. Since you have a bit more economy than a normal support, at this point, you should go for a more selfish item, like Zanya's, rather than just buying heal slave items. Other good items are the typical Ardent Censer, Mikhail's, and Staff of Flowing Water, or tinker items like Spirit Visage and Randuin's. Regardless of what items you go for, make sure you top off your build with the Warmogs. The recently nerfed meta of supports being played as roaming top laners isn't the first time that we've seen supports in solo lanes. In fact, it seems like at least once a season, players find some new build or strategy that makes it an OP thing. Maybe it's not just the strategies that are OP, maybe support champions are just a little bit overtuned. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What other supports do you think are OP when played as a solo laner? Sona has been a semi-frequent meta solo laner, but a much rarer pick that I think could easily become flavor of the month is Alistar. I've only actually seen Alistar top a few times, but it always seems to win lane hard. Let us know what supports you think would work down in the comments below. Now without further ado, let's get back into the video. Now let's take a look at this Graves build that I've seen a couple of times. Typically with Graves, the most popular build has fluctuated between either going for lethality or crit. At the moment, lethality is almost always the way people go, but there's a new third option that basically turns Graves into a frontliner. I'm talking about Gore Drinker Graves. Graves is already pretty tanky, especially for being a marksman. He gets a ton of armor from his E and can pretty easily itemize into items that add safety, like Edge of Night. By picking up Gore Drinker, you're pushing that tankiness to the next level. This build gives you pretty comparable damage to the standard one. I mean, you'll do a lot less burst with your QR combo, but being able to fight in melee range and stay in that fight means that you'll be putting out a lot more damage. This build is especially good against melee-heavy enemy team comps, where you're able to get in the fray and throw down like the rest of them. Against higher range enemy champions, just stick to the standard lethality build so you can one-shot opponents that you get onto. Now let's take a look at the build in full. For your runes, run Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Alacrity, Coup de Grace, Nimbus Cloak, and Water Walking. The stat runes being Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. For your items, start with the Ember Knife, pick up tier 1 boots, and then build into Gore Drinker and Black Cleaver. Once that's done, upgrade your boots to either Merc Treads or Steel Caps, and then go for Death's Dance. The last two items are situational, but some good choices are Maul of Malmortius, Sorella's Grudge, or Mortal Reminder. You could even get a pure tanky item like Randuin's or Spirit Visage if the enemy team is heavily stacked on one type of damage. Finishing off our list, we have Swain as a bot lane carry. It's been quite a while since we've talked about Swain in one of our videos, and that's kind of a shame. In the really high elo and the high brackets, you see him played quite a bit, but outside of the top of the ladder, he's pretty rare. But when he is picked, he sees a lot of success. In Plat Plus, he's one of the highest win rate bot lane carries, with being over just 54%. That's much better than he does in the usual role as a support. So he's definitely something that you should be abusing right now. The thing about Swain is that he just doesn't have any losing matchups. If your opponent is in range to trade with you, then you're in range to land your E. Hitting that means that you could easily hit the rest of your combo, and even before you have any items, that does a huge chunk of damage to anybody, tanky or not. Post 6, you have the best 2v2 all-in strength in the game, dealing tons of damage while also healing up anything that your opponent hits you with. Outside of lane, play around your ultimate cooldown always. Unless you're making a free pick with your W or E, you should never be participating in team fights without your ultimate. The difference is completely night and day. Anyway, let's look at the build that you're going to be wanting to run. For runes, bring Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Tenacity, Last Stand, Cheap Shot, and Ultimate Hunter, with the stat runes being Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. For your items, start with the Doran's Ring and then build into Liandry's Anguish, Sorcerer's Shoes, and Demonic Embrace. Next up, build Zanya's Hourglass and Rallies. Your last item could be a number of things. You could go for the extra tankiness with Spirit Visage or Randuin's, but in most games, I'd say go for Rabadon's. Not only does it obviously give you a big spike in your damage, but you also heal more, so it technically makes you tankier as well. And that wraps things up for our sleeper builds that you don't want to miss out on patch 12.5. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you sub so you never miss out on our meta guides, and you're always in the loop on what the best picks are. Remember to let us know what other supports you think could be OP in a solo lane down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box, where you can go ahead and discuss the league further or just hang out and be part of the community. I can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, but until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.